Daniel Cross wiped sweat from his forehead as he moved through the engine room of the mining station. The metal walls hummed with the sound of machinery working at full capacity. He had been a mechanic for 15 years, and he could read the sound of engines like other people read books. Something was wrong today. Something was very wrong. The alarm system had been going off since the ship arrived at the docking bay an hour ago. Daniel did not know much about the dragon-like aliens, but he knew they were important. Captain Lisa Hart had prepared the entire station for their visit. The peace negotiations between humans and the Empire could change everything for the human colonies scattered across this region of space. Daniel moved deeper into the engine core section. The lights were flashing red. The temperature gauge showed dangerous levels. He could feel the vibration in the metal floor beneath his boots. Something was burning out. Something critical was failing. His radio crackled. Captain Hart's voice came through, tight and controlled. "Cross, get back to the main station. We are sealing the docking area." Daniel stopped. "Captain, the engine core is failing. If that ship loses power completely, everyone on it dies." There was a pause. Then Hart said, "They have their own engineering team. They do not want human help. Leave it alone." Daniel knew the captain was right. The guards had made it very clear when the ship docked. They had weapons that glowed with a pale blue light. They did not smile. They did not speak to the human crew members except to give orders. They treated the station like an enemy territory. But Daniel had learned long ago that rules did not always match reality. Rules were made by people who sat in comfortable chairs in safe places. People in danger needed actual help, not rules. He moved to the core monitoring station and pulled up the ship's data. It took him only seconds to understand what was happening. The power source was not mechanical like human engines. It was something else entirely, something alive, something that was dying. The ship's core showed a pattern that looked almost like a heartbeat, but the rhythm was becoming irregular. The output was dropping fast. Another 30 minutes and there would be no power at all. No life support, no lights, nothing. Daniel left the monitoring station and ran toward the docking bay. His boots echoed against the metal corridor. He had no plan. He only knew that people were dying and he had to try to help them. When he reached the docking bay, guards stopped him immediately. They were tall, almost 2 meters, with scales that ranged from dark green to deep gold. Their faces were sharp and angular, with eyes that burned like amber fire. One of them raised a weapon. "You cannot go further," the guard said. His voice was like rocks grinding together. Daniel held up his hands. "The engine core is failing. I can help. I know engines." "You know nothing," another guard said. "The ship of the people is not for human hands." From inside the ship, a strange sound came. It was like a whale singing, but sadder. It was a sound of pain and fear. Daniel heard it, and something inside him broke. He did not care about rules anymore. He did not care about the consequences. He ducked under the guard's weapon and ran into the ship. The vessel was nothing like human technology. The walls were not metal, but something that looked like crystal. They glowed with a soft purple light that was fatting. The floor beneath his feet felt warm and almost wet, like touching skin. The corridors curved in ways that did not make sense. He followed the warmth and the strange energy signature that he could feel in his bones. The guards did not follow. Perhaps they were too shocked. Perhaps they were preparing to shoot. Daniel did not stop to think about it. He came to a massive chamber in the center of the ship. Inside, suspended in some kind of glowing liquid, was the largest creature Daniel had ever seen. It was a dragon, but more intelligent than any dragon could be. Its scales were gold and silver, and they were dimming like a light running out of power. Around the dragon, nobles stood in stillness. None of them moved. None of them touched the creature in the liquid. They simply watched as it died. One of the nobles, a female with scales of deep purple and gold, turned to look at Daniel. Her eyes were ancient. Her expression was one of absolute despair. "Your captain sent you," she said. It was not a question. "You cannot help us. Only the power core can save us, and no one can touch it without breaking the sacred bond." Daniel looked at the core. He could see it now, floating at the center of the dragon's chest. It was not made of metal or crystal. It was made of pure energy, shaped like a sphere of light. "What is she?" Daniel asked. "Queen Seraph," the female said. "Mother of our people, and she is gone." But the queen was not gone yet. Daniel could hear her heartbeat through the walls. It was slowing. Each pulse was weaker than the last. Daniel did not think. He moved. He stepped forward and they made no move to stop him. Perhaps they were too shocked. Perhaps they already believed their queen was beyond saving. He looked at the core. It pulsed with a weak orange light. He understood now. The queen was giving everything to keep her ship alive. She was dying because she loved her people more than she loved her own life. Daniel reached out and touched the core. The moment his skin made contact with the energy, something changed. The light flared bright white. The dragon's body convulsed. The energy pulsed through Daniel's arm and into his chest, but it did not burn. It felt like nothing he had ever felt before. It felt like every cell in his body was singing. The core's light became gold again. It became silver. It became bright and strong. The queen's eyes opened. Daniel woke in a white room with no windows. His arm hurt. His chest hurt. Every part of his body felt like it had been pulled apart and put back together wrong. He tried to sit up and pain shot through his shoulder. The door opened and a healer entered. This one was smaller than the warriors. Her scales were a pale silver color. She wore robes that hung from her shoulders like water. "Do not move," she said. Her voice was softer than the warriors. "You have suffered great injury." Daniel managed to speak. His voice was rough. "What happened?" "You touched the power core," the healer said. She began checking his wounds. "No human has ever touched sacred technology. We did not know what would occur. We did not expect you to survive." "Did the queen live?" Daniel asked. The healer did not answer for a moment. She continued her work, moving her hands over his body. Where her scaled fingers touched his skin, the pain lessened. Not much, but enough to notice. "Queen Seraph lives," the healer finally said. "This is what makes this moment strange and difficult for our people. You gave your life energy to save her. We thought you would die, but you did not die." Daniel sat up slowly. The pain was still there, but it was becoming dull. "I don't understand what happened. What is the power core?" The healer sat down beside him. "For 10,000 years, the core has kept our ships alive. It is not mechanical. It is the heart of a bond between the pilot and the ship. Our queen was connected to this core. As her strength weakened, she gave everything to keep the ship running. She was dying. She was giving her life to save us." "And I fixed it somehow," Daniel said. "You did more than fix it," the healer said. "You changed it. Human biology is not, human energy is not like our energy. When you touched the core, something happened that we cannot explain. Your touch created a new connection, a balance. The queen's strength returned. The core became strong again." Daniel looked at his hand. It looked normal. He flexed his fingers. He felt normal. "Can I see her?" he asked. The healer stood. "You must rest more, but yes, the queen has asked to see you. This is very unusual. Normally, only the royal family may approach the queen without permission. She has given special order for you." 2 hours later, Daniel was able to walk. The healer gave him clothes to wear. He followed her through corridors of the vessel. The ship was healing too. The purple glow had returned to the walls. The warmth under his feet felt less painful. They arrived at a circular chamber. This room was larger than anything Daniel had ever seen. The walls curved high above. In the center, lying on a bed of soft material that looked like silk, was Queen Seraph. She was even more massive than she had seemed before. Her scales caught the light and threw it back in colors that had no names. Her eyes were open and clear and intelligent. When she saw Daniel, she lifted her head. "Come closer," she said. Her voice was like music and thunder combined. Daniel walked forward. His legs were weak, but he made it to the edge of her bed. Up close, he could see the scars on her body, places where her scales had cracked from holding the power core, places where the energy had burned her. "You saved me," the queen said. "It was not a question." "I just touched it," Daniel said. "I didn't know what I was doing." "Precisely," Queen Seraph said. "Your people value obedience to rules. Your captain told you to leave the engine room. The guards told you to not approach my ship. Our customs told you that a human could never touch technology. Yet you came anyway. You broke all rules. You broke all customs. You did it to save a stranger." Daniel did not know what to say. "Among my people," the queen continued, "we have lived for 10,000 years believing we were superior to all other species. We believed our enemies lacked courage. We believed other worlds lacked honor. We believed only possessed true strength." She paused. Her eyes studied Daniel carefully. "You have shown me something different," she said. "You have shown me that strength is not measured only in power. Strength is the choice to help when the rules say you should not. Strength is the choice to touch a stranger when you should remain distant. Strength is the choice to fail and die rather than abandon someone in pain. The queen's massive claw reached out. Slowly and carefully, she touched Daniel's face. Her scales were warm and smooth. "Your people are younger than mine," she said. "Your technology is simpler, your lives are shorter, yet somehow you understand something we have forgotten, something that our 10,000 years of progress has erased from our hearts." Daniel stood very still. He could feel energy flowing from the queen into his body. It was not painful this time. It was warm and healing. "I am bonded with you now," Queen Seraph said. "When you touched my power core and saved my life, we created a connection that will not break. You are no longer merely a human mechanic on a mining station. You are someone my people will remember." She pulled her claw away. "There are in my empire," she continued, "warriors who believe that humans are beneath us. They will say this healing is impossible. They will say you are a spy or a deceiver, but they are wrong. What you did was real, and real things cannot be forever." A door opened and nobles entered. Among them was the female who had watched the queen die. Her expression now was different. She bowed her head to Daniel. "I am Princess Myra," she said. "Daughter of the queen, I have spoken to our healers. They wish to study what you did. They wish to understand your gift. Will you help us?" Daniel looked at Queen Seraph. She gave him a very small nod. "Yes," Daniel said. "I'll help." 3 weeks had passed since Daniel touched Queen Seraph's power core. He now worked in the research chamber, a massive facility filled with equipment he did not fully understand. The walls hummed with constant energy. The air felt thick and charged. Princess Myra stood beside him as he looked at the results of their latest test. She was younger than her mother, but carried the same intelligent gaze. Her scales were a mix of gold and green, and she moved with the grace of someone trained in both science and combat. "The results are clear," she said, pointing at the glowing display. "Your cells contain a resonance pattern that we have never seen before. It is not chemical. It is not energy in the way we understand energy. It is something else." Daniel studied the patterns. To him, they looked like musical waves, up and down, fast and slow, high and low. They reminded him of something he could not quite name. "What does it do?" he asked. "It heals," said Doctor. He was not the crown prince despite sharing the same first name as Princess Myra's brother. Confusion had occurred during the translation process. This was an older male with scales of dark blue and silver. He had spent 40 years studying biology. "When your touch connects with a person, your cells begin to vibrate at a frequency that matches our healing patterns. It is as if your body instinctively knows what we need." Doctor pulled up another display. This one showed biology in detail. Cells and organs and structures that Daniel had never seen before. "We brought you here to understand how you did this thing," continued. "But now we understand something more important. It is not that you learned to heal. It is that you were born with the ability to heal. Your species was somehow designed to match our healing frequencies." "Designed by whom?" Daniel asked. "That is the great question," Doctor said. "There are some in the Empire who believe the Ancient Ones created both our species. Others believe it is pure chance. Others believe it is something else entirely." Daniel thought about his childhood on Earth. He thought about the mines where humans worked, the farms where they struggled, the cities where they fought and loved and died. He had never thought of himself as designed for anything. He was just a person, just a mechanic who fixed engines. "Why are you telling me this?" Daniel asked. "I'm just a human, I don't have answers." Princess Myra stepped closer. "Because the council is meeting tonight. They are debating whether to keep you as a research subject or to execute you as a potential threat." Daniel felt his chest tighten. "Execute me." "Some of our most powerful generals believe your healing ability is a weapon," Myra explained. "They think humans have developed a way to control bodies through touch. They see this as an invasion disguised as peace." "That's not true," Daniel said. "I can't control anything, I'm just a mechanic." "I know this," Princess Myra said. "And the Queen knows this. But knowledge is not always enough in politics. Fear is more powerful than knowledge, and many in our empire are very afraid." The door opened, and a guard entered. He was tall and carried weapons that glowed with that pale blue light Daniel had seen before. The guard bowed his head to Princess Myra. "The council is ready," he said. "They are waiting in the great hall." The council chamber was even larger than the Queen's room. The ceiling was so high that Daniel could barely see it. The walls were carved with images of history, great battles, great queens and kings, great moments of honor and victory. Daniel stood in the center of the chamber. Around him sat 50 nobles, warriors, and scholars. Queen Seraph sat at the highest position. Crown Prince sat beside her. His scales were a bright silver with streaks of black. He was younger than his mother by many years, but his eyes held the same ancient intelligence. At the front of the gathering stood General. His scales were from decades of combat. His eyes burned with anger. "This human is an infection," said. "It enters our sacred technology. It heals our bodies. It changes our people. Whether this is intentional or not, it is a threat. I move that we execute the human and seal all records of this encounter." Several other generals made sounds of agreement. Queen Seraph raised one massive claw. The entire chamber went silent. "General," she said, "you see threat where you should see opportunity. You see deception where there is only truth. This is the weakness of fear. It makes you see enemies everywhere." She gestured toward Daniel. "I have lived for 300 years, the Queen continued. "I have ruled for 200 of those years. I have fought in wars and made peace. I have seen species rise and species fall. And I have never seen what I see in this human. I have never seen a being willing to break the most important rules of their own people to save a stranger." The Queen paused. The entire chamber waited. "Your healers have studied him," she continued. "They have tested him. They have found no weapon, no trick, no deception. They have found only truth. His cells heal because that is what human cells do. Just as blood burns hot with fire, just as our minds can touch the power of the core, human hands contain the power of healing. This is not invasion. This is the universe giving us a gift." General made a sound of frustration. "Your Majesty, you are letting emotion cloud your judgment. This creature saved your life. Now you defend it. This is not the logic of a great queen." Crown Prince stood up. His voice was sharp and cold. "You dare question our mother's judgment?" "I question her wisdom," said. "Age makes even the strongest among us weak." The prince moved down from his seat. In a single moment he crossed the distance between himself and the general. The blow came so fast that Daniel barely saw it. General flew backward and crashed against the wall. When he stood again, his scales were cracked and bleeding. The prince returned to his seat. His expression did not change. "Our mother is the strongest among us," Crown Prince said, "and her wisdom is beyond question. You will apologize or you will leave the council and never return." Bowed his head. "I apologize, Your Majesty. I spoke from fear for my people." "Fear is understandable," Queen Seraph said, "but fear must not control us. I am declaring something new today, something that will change the empire forever." She looked directly at Daniel. "Effective immediately," she announced. "I am creating a new branch of our science, a partnership between and human researchers. This human, Daniel Cross, will be honored as a healer and ambassador. Any other humans who wish to join this research may do so. We will learn how this gift works." The capital city was built into massive crystal formations that rose from the ground like frozen mountains. The structures reflected light in ways that made the entire city glow. When Daniel first arrived, he thought he had entered another world. In many ways, he had. Crown Prince met him at the entrance to the Royal Healing Center. The prince had taken a strong interest in Daniel's work. He moved through the corridors of science and politics with comfort and power. Today, he led Daniel to a new chamber, one that had been built specifically for human medical research. "This is the first of its kind," Prince said, gesturing at the equipment. "Facilities designed to accommodate both human and biology. Our researchers will work with your biology, not against it. We are learning that understanding difference is more valuable than forcing similarity." Over the following weeks, Daniel worked with teams of healers. Together, they made discoveries. They learned that human hands could speed up healing by touching specific points on a body. They learned that the effect was stronger with genuine intent to help and weaker if the human approached the task without care. They learned that it worked best when both parties understood the need and accepted the help. But not everyone was happy about this progress. Daniel first noticed the change in Prince's expression during a late-night research session. The prince was standing at a window looking out at the city below. His expression was dark. "We have a problem," said without turning around. "General is gathering support among the military families. They are claiming that your presence here is weakening strength. They are saying that relying on human healing makes us dependent. They are saying we should cast you out and return to the old ways." Daniel set down his equipment. What can I do? Nothing, Prince said. This is a problem of pride. You cannot solve it by being better or working harder. You can only solve it by existing, by continuing to heal, by showing that we are not made weak by accepting help. But events moved faster than either of them expected. 3 days later, a group of military families requested an audience with the Queen. They brought with them a who had been healed by Daniel months earlier. This name was Commander Vex, a warrior who had suffered a severe injury in a training accident. Traditional medicine had failed. Only Daniel's healing touch had saved him. Now, Commander Vex stood in front of the council and denounced Daniel. I was weak, Vex said. I relied on human touch to save myself when I should have accepted death with honor. This human did not heal me. It enslaved me to its will. It made me dependent on a creature far below our station. Daniel watched from the observation chamber. He felt anger rising in his chest. He had saved this life. He had spent hours touching that warrior, healing wounds that should have been fatal, and now that was calling him a deceiver. Queen Seraph listened to every word. Her expression did not change. When Commander Vex finished speaking, she stood. You say you would rather have died than accept help from a human, she said. This reveals the true sickness of your spirit, not the weakness of accepting healing. She turned to face the full council. My people, she said, we have ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years believing that strength means we need nothing from others. We have believed that accepting help is admitting defeat, but I have lived long enough to know that this belief is false. Queen Seraph gestured toward Daniel. This young male has shown us something we had forgotten. He has shown us that true strength is not refusing to accept help. True strength is recognizing when you are in danger and accepting help from any source. True strength is trusting another being with your life, even when that being is different from yourself. General stood. He was healed now, his wounds closed and his strength returned. But he still carried anger like a weapon. Your Majesty, he said, you honor this human too much. Look at what it brings: dependence, weakness, division among our people. Is this the legacy you wish to leave your empire? My legacy will be survival, Queen Seraph said, and progress, and the wisdom to know that we can be strong without being alone. But despite the Queen's support, the tension grew. Military officers began refusing Daniel's help. Some civilians followed their example. Stories spread that Daniel was not healing anyone but stealing their strength for human purposes. Stories spread that he was a spy sent by an enemy power. One night, Daniel was attacked by 3 warriors in the street outside his residence. They beat him and left him bleeding in the darkness. The message was clear. Not everyone welcomed him here. Prince found him the next morning. The prince's anger was cold and deadly. This will not happen again, he said. He brought Daniel to the royal palace and placed him in protected quarters. Around Daniel, guards stood constant watch. These were not there to keep him prisoner. They were there to keep him alive. My mother believes you are the future of our empire, Prince said. I am beginning to think she is correct, but future changes are always painful. There are always those who prefer the past. Daniel looked out at the city of crystal, beautiful and dangerous, ancient and changing all at once. Why are you protecting me? He asked. Because you saved my mother's life, Prince said. Because you showed my people something true about ourselves. Because the future my mother builds will require humans and to work together, and that future cannot happen if you die in the street. Days passed, then weeks. Daniel continued his work, but now under heavy guard. He healed who came to him despite the cultural pressure against it. Slowly, more began to accept what he offered. A young female came to him with a disease that was eating her from the inside. Her family had been told she would die within months. When Daniel touched her, his healing energy flowed into her body. Days later, the disease began to fade. A warrior who had lost the use of his wings in combat came to Daniel in secret. After multiple sessions of healing touch, the warrior's wings began to move again. He could fly once more. Word spread not through official channels but through families and friends. The human mechanic could heal things that medicine could not touch. He could restore what had been lost. He could give people back their lives. And slowly, the anger began to transform. They did not disappear. General and those who thought like him remained in power. They did not openly oppose the Queen, but they made their displeasure known. They retreated to their military strongholds and their private circles. They waited for the day when the queen would grow old and weak and they could restore superiority. 1 year had passed since Daniel first touched Queen Seraph's power core. The grand ceremonial hall of the palace was filled with representatives from across the galaxy. Humans and stood side by side. Other species watched from observation chambers, curious and uncertain. Queen Seraph sat upon her throne, still massive and powerful but now visibly older. The energy that had nearly killed her a year ago had taken its toll. Her scales, once brilliant gold, now showed streaks of white, but her eyes remained sharp and intelligent. She raised one massive claw, and the entire assembly fell silent. 1 year ago, she said, her voice carrying through the hall with authority, a young human named Daniel Cross made a choice that changed everything. He broke the laws of his own people to save a stranger. He risked his life for someone he had never met. He did this without being asked, without expecting reward, without knowing that his action would reshape the future of the Empire. Daniel stood in the center of the hall. Beside him stood Crown Prince and Princess Myra. Beside them stood the healers and researchers who had worked with Daniel for the past year. Humans and together. Because of Daniel's single moment of courage, Queen Seraph continued, we have discovered something that the great minds of our empire should have understood long ago. We have discovered that strength does not mean standing alone. We have discovered that the universe has given us gifts we never knew we possessed. She gestured and a display appeared above the assembly. It showed the medical advances that Daniel and the healers had made together. Diseases cured, injuries healed, conditions reversed that should have been permanent. In 1 year, the Queen said, through the partnership of humans, and we have saved the lives of over 3,000 of my people. We have restored hope where there was none. We have proven that when different species work together with genuine intent, we accomplish things that neither could accomplish alone. General sat in the back of the assembly. His expression showed only stone-faced neutrality, but Daniel could see the tension in his jaw. The general was not happy, but he remained silent. The Queen had spoken. The Empire had changed. Even those who opposed the change had to accept it. Queen Seraph continued with her announcement. Therefore, I am taking several historic actions today. She paused and looked directly at Daniel. First, I am officially recognizing the human species as full members of the galactic community. No longer will humans be treated as a young or primitive people. You are equal in all ways to the great species of this galaxy. Your strength is recognized. Your worth is honored. The human delegates in the assembly began to show emotion. Some stood up. Some appeared to be crying. For decades, humanity had been struggling to prove itself worthy of respect. In a single moment, one of the greatest powers in the galaxy had granted that recognition. Second, Queen Seraph said, I am establishing the Institute of Human Medical Research. This facility will be the primary center for developing healing technologies that combine human and knowledge. All nations are invited to send their scientists and healers to work here. The knowledge we discover will be shared freely with all species. Crown Prince stepped forward and placed a hand on Daniel's shoulder. It was a gesture of profound respect in culture. Third, the Queen said, I am appointing Daniel Cross as the director of this institute and as official ambassador of human and peace. He will be honored with all the rights and privileges that come with these positions. Daniel felt his heart stop. He had never wanted power or position. He had only wanted to help, but he understood now that helping at this scale required authority. And finally, Queen Seraph said, and her voice grew quieter, filled with meaning, I am declaring that any human who wishes to come to and work toward the good of our people will be welcomed. You will be treated not as servants, but as partners. You will be housed and fed and protected, and you will be given the opportunity to share your gifts with the Empire. The Queen sat back in her throne. Her expression was one of satisfaction, but also of exhaustion. The events of the past year had taken their toll. That night, Daniel was invited to dine with the royal family. Queen Seraph, Prince, and Princess Myra sat at a long, crystalline table with Daniel. Food that both humans and could eat was served. The conversation was easy and comfortable. Princess Myra spoke about the new research facility. She was taking a position there as head of biological research. She was excited and nervous. She wanted to discover new healing technologies. She wanted to understand the mystery of why humans complemented each other so perfectly. Crown Prince spoke about the military situation. The announcement had not been universally popular. Some military factions were considering rebellion. Some were demanding that the queen step down and let a more traditional ruler take control. "My mother is old," Prince said. "I will be king within a few years. When that happens, there will be those who test my commitment to this new path. I hope you will stand with me." "I will," Daniel said, "for as long as I can." Queen Seraph listened to this exchange with a small smile. She seemed satisfied that her son was prepared for what was coming. "I am dying," she said suddenly. Both Prince and Daniel looked at her in shock. "Do not be surprised. I have lived long enough. I have accomplished what I set out to accomplish. But before I go, I want you to understand something, Daniel." The queen turned to face him fully. "I touched death because I believed I had to save my people by myself," she said. "I thought strength meant carrying the burden alone, but you taught me something different. You taught me that true strength is accepting help. True strength is trusting others. True strength is understanding that we cannot survive alone, but we can thrive together." She raised one scaled hand and placed it on Daniel's head. "You came to the Empire as a mechanic from a simple mining station," she said. "You leave here as something far greater. You leave here as the bridge between two species, as the person who showed my empire that the future belongs to those who can work together." Daniel felt emotion rising in his throat. He was not sure how to respond to something so profound. "I only did what I thought was right," he said finally. "Exactly," Queen Seraph said. "And that is the most powerful force in the universe. When one person does what is right without thinking of reward or danger, everything changes. You have changed the galaxy, Daniel Cross, and you did it with a single touch." In the months that followed, Daniel's life transformed completely. The human colony received news of his appointment and his honor. Volunteers began arriving on to work in the research institute. Some were doctors, some were scientists, some were simply people who wanted to be part of something historic. The military did make their move. They attempted a coup and failed. Crown Prince, now king after his mother's death, led the response. The rebellion was crushed and the new path was secured. But Daniel barely noticed these larger events. He was too focused on the work. Each day he healed. Each day he learned something new about the mysterious connection between human and biology. Each day he worked toward understanding why the universe had designed these two species to heal each other. In the evenings, he would stand on a high tower of the palace and look out at the city of crystal. He would think about the mining station where he had worked as a simple mechanic. He would remember the moment when he made the choice to break the rules and help a dying stranger. That single moment had set his entire life on a new path. It had changed the course of the galaxy. It had proven something that the great civilizations had forgotten, that the smallest act of genuine kindness can reshape the world. That one person, acting from the heart, can change everything. And Daniel understood that his real work was just beginning. There was so much left to learn, so many ways humans and could help each other, so many mysteries of the universe waiting to be understood. But he was no longer afraid. He had already proven that he could do impossible things. All he had to do was keep doing what was right, keep helping, keep trusting. Keep believing that the future belonged to those who could see beyond their own species and reach out to help anyone in need. The story of the mechanic who touched the dying dragon lady would spread through the galaxy. It would become a legend. It would inspire others to break their own rules and help strangers. And it would prove that in a universe of endless darkness and distance, even the smallest light of human kindness could change everything. But Daniel and Prince did not care about those distant threats. They focused on what they could control. They focused on healing. They focused on building something new, something that had never existed before. A partnership between two species that the universe had somehow designed to work together. We will study it without fear, and we will share this knowledge with the galaxy. The chamber erupted. Some cheered, some protested, some simply sat in stunned silence. But the decision was made. The queen had spoken. And in the Empire, the queen's word was law. And in that moment, everything changed. The peace negotiations that were supposed to be careful and limited and formal became something much larger. Humanity was no longer a young species trying to prove itself in a hostile galaxy. Humanity was something the ancient empire had to reconsider completely. It all came down to one moment, one touch, one choice to break the rules and help a dying stranger. And the entire chamber fell silent. The nobles stared at the human mechanic with expressions that mixed wonder and fear and disbelief. The queen looked at Daniel, and for a moment their eyes met. Then Daniel collapsed to the floor, and everything went black.